All right, let's take a look at muscle fiber types. And there are essentially two main muscle fiber types that we have. We have fast twitch fibers and then slow twitch fibers. So fast twitch fibers are muscle fibers that respire anaerobically, so through anaerobic respiration. Because they respire anaerobic respiration, these muscle fibers are relatively low in mitochondria, blood capillaries, and myoglobin. So mitochondria is where we do aerobic respiration. We don't need a whole lot of blood capillaries going to them because, well, blood capillaries deliver oxygen, and they're low in myoglobin because, myoglobin is the protein that stores oxygen in muscle cells. They're also relatively high in glycogen because you break down a lot of glycogen doing anaerobic respiration. The other type are called slow twitch fibers. These are muscle fibers that respire aerobically, so using aerobic respiration. They're going to be relatively high in mitochondria, blood capillaries, and myoglobin, and relatively low in glycogen. Okay? Now, this is showing this on us. This is showing a fast twitch here, and this is showing a slow twitch. And you can see the color difference in here. And the color difference is due to the amount of myoglobin, which is due to the type of muscle fiber type it is. Okay? So fast twitch, low amounts of myoglobin. You see it's not as dark. Slow twitch has a lot of myoglobin, so it's going to be a darker meat. Okay? So, if you eat chicken, right, or turkey, right, there's dark meat and there's white meat. And why dark meat is dark and white meat is white has to do with what the type of muscle fiber type it is, which determines how much myoglobin it has. So dark meat on a chicken are the legs and the thighs, and that's because chickens walk around a lot, right? And so they're doing a lot of aerobic respiration there. You want to have a lot of myoglobin to store oxygen in those muscle cells. White meat on a chicken is the breast and the wings, because chickens don't fly all the time. They only fly to do quick, powerful movements to get away from a predator to get to a higher perch, right? So you want to do anaerobic respiration if you're doing quick, powerful movements. Right? And so if you're doing anaerobic respiration on those muscle fibers, they're going to have a low myoglobin content because they're doing, respiring without oxygen. So that's why white meat is white and dark meat is dark. All right? Now we go back to people. With people, most people have 55% slow twitch to 45% fast twitch most of the time. The differences can be due to genetics, but also training. If you're a marathon runner, you'll have get it up to 82% slow to 18% fast. If you're a sprinter, you get it to 36% or 37% slow to 63% fast. Now you notice the numbers don't change that dramatically that way, and that's because, if you're not sprinting, you're walking all the time, you don't want those muscles to fatigue. All right, let's look at smooth muscle. Now, smooth muscle, there are two types of smooth muscle. One type is called multi-unit smooth muscle. These are muscle fibers that function as separate units. All right? So these contract by hormones or by nerve impulses. And a really good example of this is with the iris of the eye. So these are also found in blood vessels as well. So two muscles around the iris of the eye. So if we go into a dark or a room that has a lot of light or outside, a lot of sunlight, what's going to happen there is our pupils will constrict. So the opening gets smaller. And so we're constricting these inner set of muscles that makes that opening smaller because we don't need a lot of light because there's a lot of light available. If we go into a darkened room, what we see is that our pupils dilate. They open up. So we contract these outer set of muscles while the inner set relax. This allows more light in a darkened room so we can see more. Okay? So you can see these two sets of muscles are working independently of each other. The next type is called visceral smooth muscle. And this is smooth muscle found in the walls of hollow organs. These muscles function as a single unit. Okay, and I don't have a picture of this, but we have two sets of muscles just like what we did before, but they work together. And the main type of movement they produce is what is known as peristalsis. And this is the alternate contraction and relaxation of the muscles in a tubular organ. And so what we see is we see contraction in a wave-like fashion. So we'll get contraction here, then contraction there. It's essentially like, you know, if you have a tube of toothpaste, you squeeze from the back of the tube to the front. That's essentially peristalsis. It's going to move substances down a tube. Now, if you look at smooth muscle contraction, its contraction is similar to skeletal muscle. Here's some differences. Calcium ions, instead of binding to your troponin, they bind to a different protein called calmodulin. The results are the same though. Also, stretching a smooth muscle causes contraction. So it'll contract in response to that stretching on its own. All right. It is slower to contract and relax than skeletal muscle, but it contracts longer. Okay, let's look at cardiac muscle. Cardiac muscle, once again, its contraction is similar to skeletal muscle as well. So some differences here. With cardiac muscle, we essentially have 2 units here, okay? So we have a unit in the upper chambers, which are called the atria, and then we have a unit, or you know, you can think of it as a muscle, in the walls of the lower chambers, which are called the ventricles, all right? So if one area is stimulated, one cell is stimulated in that entire network, the whole network contracts. Same thing with the ventricles. It will all contract. You stimulate it in one area, the whole thing contracts. So this is different from what skeletal muscle is. In order for me to contract all the muscles in my biceps brachii, I have to individually stimulate each individual muscle cell. I don't have to do that with cardiac muscle. All I got to do is stimulate one of those muscle cells, the entire network contracts. And so we really, really want that to occur because when our heart pumps, we want blood to be pumped out at the same time, okay? Not in a irregular fashion, all right? So the entire network then responds in an all or none manner. Also, sustained and titanic contraction, so a muscle staying contracted, does not occur because, once again, we want our heart to pump. So fill up with blood, pump the blood. Fill up with blood, pump the blood. Okay, if it stays contracted, then it ceases to function as a pump.